So for this week's Better Branding tip, everyone, I want to talk to you about when you're choosing to get a new website developed for your brand, how that experience can be either pleasant or painful. It's amazing to me how some people can have a job description that is so complicated or crazy, but they love it. They love their job. Whereas everyone else is over here saying, man, I'd rather drink 5 glasses of prune juice before leaving the house in the morning than do that job for a living. I mean, there's a whole show on it called Dirty Jobs. Think about the deadliest catch, how these people do this for a living. Sounds crazy, right? I couldn't imagine doing that for a living, but they love it and they're experts at doing that job. We live here in Cape Canaveral, Florida, and I have friends who are actually rocket scientists, engineers, and they are sitting there doing a job that to me seems very complicated, but to them as rocket scientists, it's actually what they do, and they do it every single day, and it's not that complicated. So when it comes to building a website and web development, there are ways that it could be super painful and very complicated, or actually a breeze and a pleasant experience. Considering we do that here at 321 Russ, we want it to be a pleasant experience for everyone that is choosing to work with us. And it doesn't have to be painful. So I want to talk to you guys about 3 ways that it can be painful if you're working with a company who doesn't understand these 3 things or doesn't execute at a high level when it comes to these 3 items. It could be very painful getting a website built. We have a lot of people that come to us that say, man, I've tried to talk to 2 or 3 different companies, or I've spent $2,500, $5,000, $20,000 to develop a website and it's gone nowhere, or we never finished the project, or it failed, or it crashed, or whatever. That's awful. That is such a painful experience. And we have people that come to us with those stories more often than you would think. And it's important to be able to hear what the customer has to say and be able to turn that around and give them a result that not only do they want, but that they're paying you for. The first reason that a web development process could be actually really painful is if it's too expensive, right? If the value isn't there. Now, you need to be able to be realistic and realize the cost of certain services, but you also need to be wise. You know, a true statement about web development is that depending on where you live in the United States and who you're working with, the same exact services, the same exact quality of web development and design could cost way more depending on where you live. It's kind of like buying a house in Timbuktu or buying it in LA. You're going to pay more in LA. That's just the cost of living there, and that's how it works. So we at 321 Russ are located here at Cape Canaveral, Florida, but we develop websites and solutions for all kinds of different companies around the United States. And so when we work with clients in LA, or we work with clients in, say, Minnesota, or here in county, there is actually a different expectation when they come to the table. The second reason that a web development process can be very painful is if it's just too slow. If it takes too long to get the result you're looking for. I've had clients come to me before shocked that our turnaround is what it is, and usually it's somewhere right around 2 months to 3 months or whatever to fruition. The actual full development of a site from planning to actual launch is usually around 2 or 3 months in total. And that's a really good turnaround. I've had people say before, no, it's actually more like a 6-month or 9-month turnaround that they had been quoted to get their website completed, and it was $50,000. So not only was it too expensive, but it was absolutely too slow of a turnaround. It's pretty hard to expect a web development company to be able to turn around a website in 30 days. That's pretty crazy. It usually means they're a little bit too slow. They probably don't have the volume, and it actually might be a sign that they're not really great at what they do, but not always. Maybe they're just new at that industry, which also might be a red flag, but maybe not. When you talk about 60 days, that's a really good turnaround time. 90 days, it's a very normal turnaround time. 120, you're starting to get on the higher end of things going, man, I'd really like to see it, happen faster than that. And you should. And that's just my personal opinion on those turnaround times. But when it's too slow, that can be super painful and disappointing. The third and final painful situation to avoid is really unmet expectations. So really, clarity is key. And we say that a lot here around 321 Russ, and we mean it. Clarity is key. And what we do is we have a great questionnaire. When we start any web development process, we go through this questionnaire. It's about 25 questions long, and we get all this information from the client. And we spend a few hours doing this. And that's so that we have clarity between us and the client, and we know what we're building, what goals we're trying to solve or obtain, problems we're trying to solve, goals we're trying to obtain, and where we're going to be going, what it's going to look like, and the timeline, the price, where the content's coming from, what kind of visuals are we going to use. Then we end up doing a lot of research as well to back up our decisions and why we're choosing to do what we do. This all has to do with clarity, and it's really important. When a client expects something and they don't verbalize that, or they aren't given the opportunity to verbalize what they want to see, then somewhere something's going to be lost in translation, and you're going to deliver a preview of the website before you go to launch, and the client's going to be sitting there going, this isn't what I asked for, the worst thing you want to hear ever. This isn't what I expected, definitely not something you want to hear. Or what if we do this and a whole new idea comes up? So when you talk about being clear, when we initially do our questionnaire with the client, we are actually really clear about if you want to change things moving forward, or if you want to change scope or add in things or take away elements or deliverables, that we can actually do that. But when we do that, this is what that's going to look like. This is how the cost is going to change. This is how the timeline might be affected. Yes, anything is doable, but there might be consequences or adjustments that need to make, that you need to make, that we need to make together in order to be able to really execute well what you're wanting to create. And so those are really the three things that can either make the experience of building a website really painful or actually really pleasant and really smooth. Those are things that you want to really key in on when you yourself are going to get a new website created. You want to make sure that those three things are important to whatever developer that you're actually going to be working with, that they're going to be able to meet your needs in those three areas. And if they are, then you're going to be set up for success, and it's not going to be a painful experience. And I wish that and hope that for you, because a painful web development process is just that. It's painful. And honestly, there's no reason to do that, because there's better resources out there for you. Don't settle with working with a company that you don't feel a peace about, that you don't feel good about after your first meeting. You should feel connection with them. You should feel like you are heard, they understand, and then there should be great notes and great questions asked in order to provide clarity so that you know you're going to get what you asked for.